in front of the computer and literally play 45 games in the day. That's just not who I am. It's just not what works for me. I need to go to the gym for an hour. I need to play Call of Duty Black Ops for 15, 20 minutes, and I need to read a book or do other things, because otherwise my mind burns out, and dare I say I get bored of the game or something. There's some kind of exhaustion there, and then I start getting sloppy and I start practicing bad habits. And that's when I stop improving as a player and I start becoming more of a liability to myself, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay, and then biggest hurdles facing Western esports as a whole, and plans or ideas to overcome those hurdles.
It's really interesting. I'll preface this by saying it's Western esports, but I'll also say this is a problem with esports in general, and that is that there is money to be had to grow this game. That's completely necessary. This game is not going to grow organically without money, right? People have to put in money and draw the people and gather the interest. And right now, the people with the money, and this has been more of a problem the further back you go, are people who are not gaming familiar. They don't come from gaming background. They come from corporate backgrounds or tech backgrounds or business backgrounds. They don't understand a lot about gaming. So a lot of the big functions that have come and gone have been misunderstood or misadvertised or poorly ran, because they were ran and sponsored by people who, A, look down on the people that they're trying to capitalize off of, right? They don't really respect gamers. And again, these are huge generalizations, so please don't, well, there's this one guy who did this one thing and now you're wrong. It's just a generality. But in general, those have been the problems. They don't respect the people they're trying to capitalize off of. And then the way they try to capitalize off of people is poorly ran because they don't understand what they're trying to do. So that's Western. That's also everywhere. That's been a problem in Korea as well, to a certain extent. Obviously, they've overcome that hurdle tremendously. But then the other big factor then would be acceptability and, how do you say, like, acceptability and projection, I suppose, is the way I would describe this. And that is that right now it's becoming, I mean, it's always been on the upscale, but it's more and more acceptable in this day and age to be a professional player or to be involved in the professional scene, or to be, like to tell your wife, hey, I'm going to fly to Detroit for this LAN because I'm a huge fan of this game that you think I'm wasting my time on every night. You know what I mean? Whereas in the past, that was like grounds to leave the guy because he's a schmuck. It's definitely on the upswing, but even so, we're still in a day and age where it's still viewed that way, if not openly, then internally to a certain extent. So as time goes on, that will get wavered out a little bit, and as time goes on, the people who have the money and are putting money into esports are going to come from that gaming background because enough time has passed. The other factor that's going to help out there as well is that the people who tried and failed to capitalize off the niche community of gamers will be replaced by people who are younger and more a part of the community, which will be great. Because the reason so much money keeps getting put into it and then failed, so to speak, is because it's a niche community. Like when a Intel or Kingston sponsors an event and it goes well, those people look at that and say, well, son of a bitch, I'm going to write an email, I'm going to write a letter, I'm going to buy Kingston, I'm going to buy Intel, and now I'm a fan. They're very loyal that way. So it's not like it's a one-way street. I mean, businesses very much so seek to gain off of the gaming community, but they just don't know how to do it yet.
Really good answer here. So I was going to save this for later, but it's kind of on my mind right now. The TSL 3, everyone got to make their own brackets for who they think were going to win. When I did mine, I'm a huge fanboy. I picked Liquid Tyler to win the whole thing because I love Noni. He's awesome. But Unknown here, he's more of a realistic guy. He thinks OGS MC is going to dominate the whole thing. When you look at a tournament like this, which side do you lean to? Are you the fanboy kind where you want, Noni to come out on top, or are you going to go with, MC, who's the best player in the world right now?
In my heart of hearts, I've always rooted for underdogs, and I've always been, I'm always up for the controversy. I love it. I think it'd be terribly predictable and for the most part, boring if MC won it, because that's who everyone expects to win it. That's the safe bet for sure. And I would absolutely love it if my boy and friend, Tyler won it as well. You know, he's kind of he's an American legend. He's a guy who's definitely done it in the past. I'll tell you right now, he won't. He's just not going to. I'd love it if he would, but he's just not of that caliber just yet. But I would love it if in the Final Four there was 3 non-Koreans and 1 Korean. Like I watched Thorzane versus Fruit Dealer, and that was the most excited I've been for a StarCraft match in a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I lost $120 on that game, by the way. I gave 3-1 odds on Fruit Dealer against Thorzane to TT1, and I definitely lost that bet, but I didn't give a rat's ass. Thorzane played so damn good, and he just schooled this legend, so it was pretty cool to see.
Definitely. So right now we're going to go back to more of you as a player. Who, like when you go to these lands and stuff, or you just talk to these people that you're training with, who's your favorite player?
That's an awesome question. I think like this is going to be kind of boring this way, and a lot of people would answer this way, but I'm really big on the team. Like if I were a girl, I would be the cheerleader for EG, or if I was not a good player, I'd be the guy asking them how to buy their shirts because I'm a big fan of EG. So probably a guy like Idra, but he actually, even as good of a friend as he is to me and as close as I am to him, sometimes he's easy to root against too because he's got such a sour attitude from time to time. But one of the guys who absolutely never has a sour attitude and is works so hard in life and does so well is a guy like Machine. So at MLG Dallas, when Machine was playing out of his mind and just looked like he could eat a lion on that day, I was actually, I was already knocked out of the tournament, and he actually helped me along that way that time. But I didn't care. I was super, super excited. So I'll say a guy like Machine, but I guess it's going to be kind of a lame answer in the sense that I also like Idra and Axlav.
Okay. So if they're your favorite player, I know you entered this at, I believe, PAX East or the last day of the game, but I think it was the state of the game before that. But who's your rival?
Yeah, well, the NASL kind of asks who your rival is, and it's an interesting question because the sense of rival that a lot of people have is that it's like this guy that you hate or detest or want to beat so bad. And those guys are all ladder people that they talk smack, and I'll never see them at a LAN. They're not real competitive gamers. They're just people who do well on a ladder and are jerks about it. So unfortunately, I'll never get to play those guys at LAN, so I can't name them and give you the juicy drama that you want. But at a LAN, I really want to beat the best players. I don't want to win a LAN where it's like I got 2 walkovers and 3 guys were sick and out late the night before, and I just kind of gifted myself into victory. Because that's how you'll be remembered. People will look at that and be like, yeah, well, he beat so-and-so, but the guy was falling out of his chair drunk. Who cares? I want to sit across from a Jinro. I want to sit across from a Liquid Tyler and beat him. And it's worth mentioning right now that as of MLG records are concerned, I am 2-1 against Liquid Tyler. So what's up now, Tyler?
So more of this type of question. If you could do a best of 5 with any player in the world, and it would be a first televised StarCraft 2 event, it's going to have all this publicity, kind of like Clash of the Titans was,
yeah,
but on a much more larger scale. Who would it be against?
Ooh, that's awesome. Who would it be against? Probably Idra. I pick Idra because he's a really, really big name in the community, obviously, and he's one of the best surgeons on the whole planet. But also, I'm his practice partner nemesis. I actually beat the guy a whole heck of a lot. And he'll blame Protoss, but for purposes on, like, if it was televised and stuff like that, obviously I don't care what reason he gives. I just like to beat really big players in the big stage.
All right, I can agree with that answer. That was actually, who I would pick. So, last question amongst these types of things. You have to play against a Terran, a Protoss, and a Zerg, epic matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it's going to be Idra again for Zerg, but, who would you pick for these 3 races if you had to play them?
That's actually a question, too. And again, we're picking, like, a huge stage, right? Like, I want to beat him on the biggest stage. I would have to say a guy like Huck. Training Korea is hugely famous. He's an amazing player. But before he left, he was the guy I could not beat. And it wasn't so much, the easy answer is to say he's just better than me. I think he is better than me. But in PvP, it wasn't like he was just so much better than me that there was no chance. he was in my head every time. I was like, okay, he did that time. I'll switch it up to this. Now he's blind countering that, and that happened over and over again. I mean, he made me his bitch, like no question about it. He owned me. I would love to sit down with him on a big stage and go toe to toe and defeat him, or lose. You know, there'd be no dishonor in losing him. He's a fantastic player. The Terran would probably have to be a guy like Pain User, a guy who's done has been hugely successful at MLGs. But he's another guy who, when we were both kind of coming up in StarCraft 2, I don't know how this happened. I don't even remember what I said, but we actually had a grudge match, show match, because Havad Khan, who's a bit of a StarCraft 2 supporter / entrepreneur, noticed that we had some bad blood of some sorts. We're actually really good friends now, so I don't even know what it was. But he funded like a $300 or something like that show match between the two of us. But I used to spank him around earlier on, and now I think he's beat me the last few times, and he's obviously done a lot better at MLG. So I'd like to put him up on the battle grid and take him down. You know, that's just kind of my mentality too. Is anytime you ask me who do I want to play, it's never going to be someone I can beat, except for Idra, of course. It's going to be somebody who I want to beat. You know, and I want people to see it.
Okay, and then the Zerg would, of course, would be Idra probably.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a specific goal in mind for esports where you can say, all right, if I get this far with esports, I'll feel like I've done my job?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of goals. I mean, the most immediate one is like I want to win a major. I want to win an MLG or it'd be pretty cool if I won the NASL, I suppose. Just something like that. You know, I'm a good player, but I'm not playing at the level where I can win a championship. If I do, I'd have gotten lucky pretty consistently in that tournament. But I am capable of playing at the level where I can win a tournament and earn it and feel like, you know, sure, there's luck, there's always luck involved, but it was mostly my doing. And there's going to take a lot of work, a lot of brain play, and a lot of time. So I'm excited to work on all those things to become that player, because I can still remember the day I won a national championship for Brood War, and it was one of the best feelings in the whole world. It's just, you're on top of the world for that moment, or as it were, the United States. And, you know, a lot of people are very quick to remind me that I've been living off of that accomplishment, and to a certain extent, they are absolutely right. I have won other things since then, but they're not nearly of that level, and nobody's more aware of it than I am, so I am very hungry to return to that pedestal. And then other goals, you know, obviously I've got my hands on different plates. I would say I want to be a day 9. I want to be a guy who, obviously I'm not going to be a day 9. I'm not going to replace a day 9, but I want to be of that level where people look to me and say, you know what, that's a guy who's trying to grow this sport, and he's doing it the right way. I mean, when you look at a day 9, those are some of the things you think. Obviously, there's a whole heck of a lot more you think. But without a doubt, you look at day 9 and you say to yourself, that guy is working for us. And that's what I want to be. I want to be the guy who, despite my persona, despite my humor, despite my, some people call it arrogance, others call it confidence, they're the same thing. You know that at the end of the day, I'm working as hard as I can to grow esports in StarCraft 2. And that's kind of arbitrary. There's obviously no subjective line there. But at some point, I think we can look at a person and say, okay, that's what they're doing.
Okay, awesome. So MLG Dallas, you're obviously going to go.
Yep.
It's everyone's goal to win it, but is your actual personal goal to win it, or would you be satisfied with round of 8 or round of 4 or something like that?
I would be very satisfied with round of 8 or round of 4. You're absolutely right. Any competitive player that goes in there has the goal of winning it, and that's certainly is found by me. But I went to 3 MLGs last year that had StarCraft 2, all 3 of, the 3 that did. And I placed in the top 20 3 times, and as high as 13 and as low as 17. And that's okay. That's pretty good. But it's not great. And I want to be great. I want to be the top 8 guy consistently who is threatening to win the damn thing. And that's what I want to do. So would I be satisfied with a top 8, a top 4? Yes. But if people ask me, hey, good job, you got top 8, I would say thanks, but I still want to win. That's still my goal.